Simplicity and spirituality. Now, these two I find go together more often than not, so I wanted to just briefly talk to you a little bit about this. Our lives sometimes become so unnecessary complexity that we just feel overwhelmed by. The more complexity we have in our lives, it seems like it's harder for our attention to focus on the things that are truly important to us. Now we can say this is a modern uh, thing happening, but if you go back and you read a lot of the mystic teachers over the past 2 3 thousand years, they keep coming back to that idea of making your life simple, finding the simple joy in things, focusing on the most necessary and just letting the rest go. And I find that the more that we allow ourselves to just enjoy the little things and not get hung up on this need to have bigger and better and more, the easier it is for us to get in touch with that place inside ourselves that we can connect with is that fountain of peace and serenity. I think too often our culture, particularly our Western culture, tends to put a focus on accumulation of things, and we become attached to certain things that we feel we need to have in order to be happy. But once our basic needs of food, shelter, clothing, safety are met, oftentimes we really don't need that much to truly feel a sense of contentment and happiness in our lives. Now, I'm not saying we should live a life of poverty or anything like that, but it's the attachment to more complex ways of interacting with people, more complex concepts, how we live our lives, more accumulation of things, and to try and sometimes convince ourselves that we are truly happy. And this isn't quite the case. When you allow yourself to let go of your perceptions about what you need and just really focus on what's the most important thing to you, you'll be really surprised, at least I think you will, at how much energy we spend trying to make our lives more complex than it needs to be. A lot of our emotional complexity is often due to our desire to control things that are outside our ability to control. Trying to control other people who we can't really control, other situations that we can't really control, economics that sometimes we can't really control, politics that in a lot of ways we can't really control. And it just spends so much time trying to maybe get people to see us in a certain way, to be approved of by others, and we spend all this energy that pulls us further away from going inside and finding that contentment with who we are and with life as it is. Um, I remember years ago when I first started reading about Taoism, a lot of the Taoist teachers kept coming back to this idea of hacking away things that aren't essential in life. Letting it, just let it go if it's not essential. So when you think about your needs and your needs are those, physiological, uh, food, shelter, clothing, safety and security. And then after that, it becomes what you want. And it's okay to want things. And if you're going to buy something and you have the money for it, why not buy the best that you can? It's not an issue, again, about poverty, but it's separating to what you really need and what you just want in life. For example, if I want my boss to think I'm um, a really rock star at work, if I'm looking for a increase in salary, that may be something I need to pay attention to. But I don't see that as a need, because it's a want. I want to have more money. I want to have more attention. I want to have people to see me a certain way. My friends, to make sure my friends view me as this cool, calm, collected, or really fun person. And if I'm putting the energy into trying to control how other people, other groups see me, I'm missing a huge component of really paying attention to myself. So when we make our lives simple, where we don't spend so much time chasing the next big thing, to being okay with just, if you have a downtime for an hour or two, just having a nice cup of hot tea and just sitting peacefully and quietly and being okay with that. Or just finding little things that bring us enjoyment, not always having to make it more and more. For example, people who start to play musical instruments because they want to play in bands, but then they join the bands, and then the band's gotta get more gigs, and then you gotta get more gigs, and then you gotta make more money, and then you gotta do and all of these kind of things, and it loses its initial desire just to sit and play and enjoy the interaction with other people. So spiritual living to me is a huge component of simple living. Jesus' comment about the lilies in the field, Lao Tzu's comment about the unessentials and just letting those go. So this overall idea of letting things go is to me the spiritual path. We can let go of a self-criticism because that's just too complex to always be constantly criticizing yourself. Maybe you're doing this right, maybe you're doing not. Maybe letting go of other people's criticism. Maybe letting go of our perceived need, which is really a want, to have some ridiculous amount of money or fame or approval from others. And then when we start to live simply, it's a crazy thing. But that little bit of connection that we have to our true self starts to build and grow this internal state we call contentment and happiness. And then we find that we don't need the things that we thought we need. We just wanted them. And then that means our expectations in a good way are lowered. And we can just be happy in the moment without trying to push ourselves sometimes to ridiculous measures to accumulate and maintain things that really aren't simple. So maybe for the next week, just sit down and every time you buy something or you talk to someone, go, what is it that I really need? And what is it that I want? And when you get clear on what it is that you need and you honor what you need, and you find out the want is more of a choice, it's an interesting perspective, and maybe it gives you a little more space up here and in here to kind of see things more as they really are.